welcome to another episode of Tween Book Bites. We are coming to you from the Scott County Public Library here in Georgetown, Kentucky, and you'll notice something different today. We are fresh-faced. For Mary Lou and I, and also our cameraman Min Young, have been, thankfully it's been at least 2 weeks since we got our second shots, so we are considered fully vaccinated, and the CDC says that we're allowed to hang out together in small groups without wearing masks. So hopefully you can also hear us better now. I mean, I know I talk loud, but also I know we get muffled through the mask.
Yeah,
so,
really muffled.
Ha!
It feels good too. It feels good. We're still being careful. Like when we're out in the public, we wear our masks.
Yes.
But our whole children's team got vaccinated, and 2 weeks ago was our second shot. So yeah.
Yes. So today, though, that's not the topic. We are going to be talking about sports books. Because it's still March, and sports. Although, I'm not talking about any basketball. It looks like you might be, but...
Well, I am not a UK fan. I'm so sorry. I can't help it. But I did wear UK blue today because the UK women... Min Young was complaining about UK not being in the NCAA. Well, the UK women are in the NCAA, as are the Louisville women, as are the Moorhead Eagles are playing in the men's tournament. So Kentucky has a lot of dogs in the fight. Yeah. I just happen to be a Tar Heel because I was born and raised in Chapel Hill. I went to all the basketball games when I was growing up. I love basketball. I love it. I love it. And I just can't change that deep imprint in my heart that makes me a Tar Heel. So there it is. But and our flamingos agree because they observe our Carolina blue. Thank you very much. As is the sky. Uh-huh. There's a great saying in Chapel Hill, if God's not a Tar Heel, then why is the sky Carolina blue? There you go. All right. Enough of being truly obnoxious. We're going to be talking about sports books today.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. I mean, I've just got a ton of books because there are so many good books involving sports written for the tween kid age, and they just are uniformly good books, really good books.
How about you start with your basketball?
I'm going to start with two basketball books.
Two
Basketball books. This is one of my favorites. This book won a Newbery Gold Medal and a Coretta Scott King Award, and it deserved it. This book is written by Kwame Alexander, and it is a book written in verse, which is never my favorite genre, but I love this one. And if you all will bear with me, I'm going to read you the first page and show it to you about what makes this book so great. The first chapter is called Dribbling. At the top of the key, I'm moving and grooving, popping and rocking. Why you bumping? Why you locking? Man, take this thumping. Be careful though, cause I'm crunking, crisscrossing, flossing, flipping, and my dipping will leave you slipping on the floor while I swoop in to finish with a fierce finger roll straight in the hole. Swoosh. So he tells these great things about all the basketball moves, and he puts the words on the page in a way that kind of illustrates the moves that he's talking about. It's the genius of Kwame Alexander as a writer in verse. Love this book. And it's about twin brothers who both are great basketball players. Their father was a pro basketball player who his injury ended his career. And the two brothers are just like this until one of them gets a girlfriend. And that comes between them, causing a lot of tension between the two brothers. And it gets pretty bad when the brother without the girlfriend, mad at his brother when they're playing a game, and throws a ball so hard in his face that he injures him. And the parents say, "You're out."
Yeah.
So anyway, great book, wonderful basketball descriptions, which is what's really important to me in in any sports book. Are you engaging me not just about the characters? I want to hear about the sport too.
And don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that the audiobook version of that won the Odyssey Award.
It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah. The Odyssey Award is for audiobooks, like the best produced audiobooks in the year. And I heard a snippet, and it is good.
So my other basketball book is called Nikki on the Line. This book was never on my radar. It came out 2 years ago. And it's a longer book, and I read it I couldn't stop reading it. It was so good because the characters in this book are wonderful. Nikki is 12, 13 years old, 7th grade, and she's about my height. I'm 5'2", she's 5'4", so which is pretty average for an adult woman. But it's short for a basketball player, but she's really good. She's really good. She's a point guard. And point guard is probably one of the most important positions on a basketball team because it's like a quarterback. They call the plays in basketball and they sort of control what goes on in the court. And she's always played like on county rec teams. And her best friend's name is Adria, I believe. Let me see, Adria. And Adria's father's always been their coach. And he's always told Nikki, you are the best point guard in the county. My gosh. And Adria, who is tall, usually plays forward. And they both try out together for the elite traveling team, the one that goes all around the country playing other elite traveling teams. And she's been told that if you want to play basketball in high school and on into college, you need to do this. You got to get on this elite traveling team. So she and Adria try out, and they both make it. Yay! It is Nikki's current dream come true. But there's also another girl on the team whose name is Kate. And Kate is now, Adria's 6 feet tall. Kate is like, I think 6'2" or 6'3". She is really tall and she's really good. And she has this sports parent. Her dad is a real piece of work. Like he's always screaming and yelling at her. And if Nikki has the ball and she's trying to shoot, he's going, no, Kate, you should have gotten the ball. What? And which rattles Nikki, and she misses. She's a really good shooter, and she misses. And it's the combination of when they start traveling and they get in these gyms that are, like when they go to these tournaments, it's not a gym, it's like 8 gyms lined up, and everybody's playing at the same time, and the buzzers are going off, and people are screaming, and the refs are blowing whistles, and Nikki's just totally rattled, and she's rattled by the comments that this guy is making in the background. And she's also not a point guard anymore. He's got her in a shooting position, and she's never played that, and she's all shaken up. And she starts playing really badly. And so it's kind of a crisis for her. But the other thing, her mom is a single mom, and it costs $800 for them to join this team. And at first her mom says, I didn't know that. You can't. I don't have $800. You cannot be on this team. So they work out a deal where Nikki is going to babysit her little brother, who is just a spitfire, after school every day, so her mom can take him out of after school care, and that money will go to play for her to be on the elite team. Well, her best friend Adria is now hanging out with Kate, and they're hanging out after school, and they're taking a strengthening class together. And Nikki's too embarrassed to tell them that I can't do that. I can't afford it. I have to look after my brother. I can't afford another class. So she just tells them she can't do it. And Adria thinks that Nikki's mad at her, and it gets into all this friendship drama. But it's also about her developing herself as an athlete and what she does, because she can't afford all this extra stuff, to develop her skill as a shooter. And there's a little romance in there. There's her lab partner who really likes her, and he plays basketball, and he helps working with her on her skills. So just a wonderful, wonderful book about relationships on a team and how important it is that those relationships be good because it's a team sport, and the ways that somebody really trains themselves to become a really good competitive athlete. Great coach. The coach in this book is wonderful. The sports parents, whoa, holy cow, they're really a piece of work. Nikki on the Line, and this book is written by Barbara Carol Roberts, who was a basketball player herself and a very good writer.
All right. I'm going to jump sports completely because I'm going to talk about mini golf.
Yes.
So this book is called One Last Shot by John David Anderson, who wrote Ms. Bixby's Last Day and also posted.
Great books. He's
the
a great writer.
First one I've read by him, and it is delightful.
I'm a fan.
So our main character here, Malcolm Greeley, he's got a bit of a sports dad, except Malcolm's sports are not his thing. He's not good at them. He does them because he knows that's what his dad wants him to do. His dad was a great baseball player who then also had an injury and was unable to go pro. And he really wants Malcolm to do sports. And that's just not his thing. So there's one day they're gonna go to a basketball game, or not basketball, one of Malcolm's baseball games, and I don't remember why, but for some reason they stop and they go to like IHOP, and Malcolm's dad is like, do you not want to do baseball? And he's like, and so his dad's like super disappointed, of course, and he's like, okay, that's fine. If you don't want to do it, we'll just go home and you can call the coach later and be like, well, I quit, and that's fine. That's fine. Okay, it's super guilt trip. But he quits. He's like, I said it, and I'm not going to take it back now. And they randomly, they leave IHOP or whatever waffle place it is, and down the street is this old mini golf course, and the dad's like, that place reopened. We used to take you there when you were a kid, do you remember? And Malcolm's like, nope, not at all. And they go, and surprise, Malcolm beats his dad, and his dad's like, Malcolm doesn't think anything of it. Until later when his dad's like, look, they do mini golf tournaments. Malcolm's like, it was fun. Okay, I guess we can compromise. You're like, it could be worse. I like it. His dad gets super into it though, and hires the guy that he went to high school with who played golf, who claims that he was like nationally ranked, like at the very, very, very bottom of the rankings, but like technically ranked. And his name's Frank. Frank's a weird dude. But like the greatest. Oh my gosh. So Frank, he is fairly recently divorced, and he's a little bitter about it. He also is always eating something, a burger, whatever. He's drinking a slushie. And the first time they go to the mini golf course, Frank takes the putter and goes, what is this? And Malcolm's like, well, it's a putter. He's like, nuh-uh, false, it's your arm. And he literally duct tapes Malcolm's hands to this putter and is like, okay, you want that slushie I bought you? Get it. And so Malcolm's trying to use the putter to get it off the table, and it didn't go well, obviously. And it's delightful. Especially when Malcolm's like, I have to pee. And they're like, okay, let me find some scissors, I guess. I don't know. And the one thing that I love, and Mary Lou said that she thinks that maybe another book has kind of started this trend. But, so at the beginning of each chapter, there are 18 chapters, like there are 18 holes in golf and mini golf usually. And each one starts out with a short description of the hole. And then the rest of it is things that are happening in Malcolm's life. It starts at the tournament, the big tournament, and kind of switches back and forth. So you see how things have ended up the way they have, because immediately at the beginning you realize there's some troubles between Malcolm's parents. They're not getting along, maybe. Malcolm's dad has not come to this big mini golf tournament that he was so into. It's just Malcolm's mom. And then the chapter ends with Malcolm either, making the hole or not, but it ends with how he goes about the mini golf hole. And it's delightful. There's also, he gains a friend named Lex. She's crazy and I love it. She also loves buttons. She has like a ton on her backpack, so I feel a little bit of an attachment there. I also have many buttons. But yeah, oh my goodness. It is just, it's great and it's hysterical and I highly suggest it.
He's such a good writer. Everything he writes is just, and he captures boy spirit so well.
Oh man, yeah.
I just love the his beautifully fleshed out male characters are so good.
Yeah. I laughed a couple times and had to read Mary Lou passages because I was like, 12-year-old boy humor.
Well, that book touches on baseball, so I'm going to do my one baseball book. And this book is maybe not quite as sports focused as some of the others. I'll go brief with this, but this is such an unusual book, and I really like it. It's called Lupe, Wong, Wont, Dance, and it's written by Donna Barba Higuera.
That's the name, yeah.
And this was a Pura Belpre. Oh, my Spanish is really terrible today. a Belpré honor book written by a person of Hispanic heritage. And this is about a girl, she calls herself, her name is Lupe Wong, and she calls herself Mexinese or Chinacan, because she is the daughter of a Mexican mother and Chinese father. And her father was a baseball player, but he left, he was a minor league player, and he left the minor league to become a commercial fisherman. And he died a couple of years ago in an accident on his boat. And Lupe and her mother are still deeply grieving. But she's very engaged with both cultures. Her Chinese grandparents, her Mexican grandparents are all very much a part of her life. And she feels a little out of place because of her unique racial mix. But she has this baseball hero that she loves, who's a pitcher. And his name is Fuli Hernandez. And he is Chinese Mexican. And he is on the team that her uncle manages. And he has promised her that if she makes straight A's, her uncle's gonna introduce her to her baseball hero. So she's a really good student. She's a baseball player. She's a really good baseball player, but she's got straight A's, and PE, of course, is her best class because she's an athlete. Until she finds out that the custom in her town is that in 7th grade, this particular semester, they don't do a sport, they square dance. And it is boy-girl square dancing. And Lupe Wong is not having it. She is not having it. And so she works up this thing where she comes up with all these ideas about how to put an end to the square dancing. They're gonna dance to Cotton Eye Joe. And she and her best friend, who is, the book doesn't clarify, she's either biracial or black. One of her parents are African American. And they find out there's some racist history to that song, Cotton Eye Joe. Some unsavory history. I won't go into that.
It was surprising.
Yes, it was very surprising. And so she takes that to the principal. And the principal is like, oh gosh, that's terrible. Well, they don't get rid of the dancing, they just choose another song. And it just gets into a lot of drama around this dancing. And in the meantime, Lupe is working on her knuckleball. Now, if you watched our sports science thing last week, we talked about knuckleballs. And knuckleball plays a big role in this. And she's trying to perfect it. And that's one of the other reasons she wants to meet this baseball player, because he's a great knuckleball player. But a lot of this, with this drama, with this obsession that she develops about stopping this dancing, and particularly this boy-girl stuff. The book, I like it because it has a whole host of diverse characters. Her best friend, this girl Andy that I already mentioned, and then her other best friend is a boy named Niles, who has autism. And the book talks a lot about how he's learned really effectively to communicate about his autism to other people and to manage the difficulties that he has in a really effective way. It's a really beautiful, such a positive portrayal of such a diverse group of characters. Loved this book. Again, poor Kelly, I love this book every day. I tell her more about why I love this book. So, Lupe Wong Won't Dance by Donna Barba Huera. That's my last traditional sport. The rest of the sports I'm going to talk about are less traditional. Do you want me to go on, or you got one you want to talk about?
No, I can talk. This one is
you
also.
got all those, yeah.
I do. I have two graphic novels that are. This one is available in print. We don't have it in print, but we do have access to it on Hoopla. So this is called Fuzzy Baseball. This is the first in a series. I don't know. I think the first one's just called Fuzzy Baseball. I have no other information. It's by John Stephen Gurney. It's not very long. It's like 50, 75 pages. It's a graphic novel. Very short read. Very quick. But also really fun. I did not expect to like it because I don't like baseball. I think we've established I don't really like sports in general.
Sad.
But,
so sad.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. So it's unusual because it's all animals. And so the teams, there are the Fernwood Valley Fuzzies. There are heroes. And their enemy team is the Rocky Ridge Red Claws. And the Red Claws always win. Like, it's sad. Like, you think the Fuzzies are going to win, and then, nah, they screw it up. It's just very depressing. And so there's this one super fan, and her name is Blossom Honey Possum. She is honey possum.
That's great.
Yeah, all the names are great. Oh my goodness. Yeah, like even I, not a baseball fan, knew that Hammy Sosa was a play on Sammy Sosa. And there's also Sandy Koufax, who is a fox but is supposed to be Sandy Koufax. So like, if you are a sports fan, you're going to get even more out of it than I did. Because even I was like, ha, I get it. But yeah, Blossom Honey Possum is sort of our main character, and she's a super fan, and she kind of gets fed up with how terribly they're playing, and so she decides that she's gonna go and train, and she does. There's a whole training montage, and then she gets signed to the Fuzzies, and so they're playing their rivals, the Red Claws, and they're not doing that great. They're not like doing terribly. I think it's 3-0, which isn't good, but like, you can come back from that. And the rest of the team is just very despondent. They're like, oh, well, I guess we're gonna lose again. And Blossom's like, what is wrong with you? Come on now. I know we can win this. Look at that crocodile pitcher. When he spins his tail this way, he's gonna throw this sort of pitch. And when he does it the other way, he's gonna throw this pitch. And when he just twirls it up, he's gonna throw this pitch. And they're like, you noticed that? And so then they look and they're like, oh, she's right. And so suddenly, the Fuzzies are doing real good. And it is just delightful. I'm not going to tell you what happens at the very end. I don't think you'll be terribly surprised. But, yeah, highly suggest, especially if you like graphic novels or baseball or both.
I forgot to mention crossover, and there's also a graphic novel version of the crossover. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about some of the lesser known sports. I'll try to keep these brief. This one is called Black Brother, and it was written by Jewel Parker Rhodes. And I think that you can surmise from the title that this book deals a lot with racial issues. Lupe Wong did too. She gets harassed some about her race by some of the less savory. Some of her less savory peers who call her Guadalupe, yeah, kind of nasty stuff. This is about two biracial brothers. Dante is 12 and Trey is 14. Their father is of Scandinavian heritage, and he is a big, tall, white-skinned person with blonde hair, blue eyes, very fair. And their mother is this very petite, dark-skinned African-American woman. And she I can't remember what the father does, but the mother is a lawyer. She is like a legal aid lawyer. She's just always fighting for underdog people in poverty. She's just a great advocate and kind of just a fierce defender of people's rights. And the two brothers have very different skin tones. Trey, the older brother, looks a lot like his father. He's got blonde hair, he's got light skin, he's tall and lanky. Dante looks a lot like his mother. He is shorter and he's very dark skinned. And that's never been a problem. That's never been an issue in their life. They lived in a very diverse inner city neighborhood, I think somewhere in New York, in one of the boroughs of New York City. And their neighborhood was very diverse. It was just, all kinds of mixes of people. But their mother takes another job, working in another legal aid clinic closer to Boston. And their family's well off. They move into a very rich suburb, very white neighborhood, very white suburb. And the boys are enrolled in a private school that is very white and very rich. Trey does fine. Trey's he's an outgoing guy. He's a really good athlete, really good basketball player. People just like him, and he immediately becomes kind of a popular guy. And Dante, for the first time in his life, is treated very differently because of the color of his skin. And anytime there's any trouble in his classroom, if the teacher didn't see it, she just assumes that it was Dante that did it. And he's always getting in trouble. He's never been in trouble a day in his life. He's a great student. He's really smart, good kid, just no problems. And suddenly he's getting in trouble all the time. And there's this guy, he's the captain of the fencing team, and he's a bully. He's just a nasty white guy. And he calls Dante Black Brother. And he's always kind of making little racist jabs at Dante. And one day they're having, and he's the captain of the fencing team. They have a really good fencing team. And I can't remember why, but Trey and Dante both go to the fencing tryouts. And Dante's fantasy is that he will someday fence and get on the fencing team and beat this guy. This Aiden is his name. But in the meantime, once again, Aiden flicks the pencil at a girl in the classroom. It hurts her. She yells. The teacher turns around and says, "Dante, to the principal's office." And Aiden does this because he knows Dante's always going to get blamed. And he gets down to the principal's office, and they're like, "You're here again." And they won't even listen to him. And Dante's so frustrated, he throws his book bag down. What does the principal do? The principal calls the police, and they come and arrest him. And when his parents go down, Mama Lion, she is a lawyer, comes on, and she's like, you get my son out of there. And Dante he just doesn't know what to do. This has been horrible. This is very traumatic, as you can imagine. Well, his brother, who's trying to help him, support him through this, tells him about this fencer, a black fencer that was training for the Olympics. He was a really nationally renowned fencer. And he is, that was years ago, and he is now located near their home running a program for after-school program for kids. So Dante goes down there and introduces himself, and the man is not very friendly, but Dante finally convinces him to train him to be a fencer. And they develop a fencing team through this inner-city after-school program. And Dante learns how to fence, and he takes to it like a duck to water. His brother's this great athlete. Dante's never been an athlete, but fencing is his thing, and that sword becomes his arm. And I'm not going to tell you what happens, where it goes with stuff, but a lot of what this book does is show how his confidence develops as he develops his skill as a fencer. I think that's kind of one of the beautiful things of sports, is for kids finding confidence as their own skills and their physical strength develops. And that happens in several of these books. Black Brother by Jewel Parker Rhodes. Really good book.
All right. I think my next one will piggyback off that very well. This is Love Double Dutch by Doreen Spicer Danley. I'm not finished with it. I'm only this far, but it's real good. I really like it. So I can't tell you what's going to happen because I don't know. But it starts out Michaela. She lives in New York City with her parents and her younger brother. And Michaela knows some things. She sees some things. And she knows that she is like the best double Dutch player. Jumper.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. She's the best jumper like in the area. And she knows that her team is going to make it to like the national thing at the gardens, the gardens.
Madison
Square Garden. Thank you. And she also knows that her parents are having some troubles. Her daddy is a little bit of a player, and she's aware of that. And so very quickly, her team, yes, they get invited to the like tryout stage, basically. That if they win this, they might go to the gardens. But she gets home, and her mom's like, yeah, so your dad and I need some time. You and your brother are going to spend the summer down in Charlotte with your Aunt Jeannie. And she's like, you are ruining my life. Why are we in trouble for what you and Daddy are having problems? Ugh. But it doesn't matter. They're going anyway. So they do. And Kayla's like, this is going to be the worst summer ever. A, I can't do double Dutch. B, my cousin hates me. Because her cousin Sally, who's right about her age, she's a couple months younger, one time they were playing when they were kids, and they were playing in the car, and Sally accidentally shifted the gears, and so the car went rolling down into the rose bushes, and Sally got in trouble, and not Michaela, and so Sally really didn't like Michaela, and so Michaela's like, this is going to be the worst. This is going to be the absolute worst. Ugh. So where I am in the book right now, Sally used to jump double Dutch as well. She stopped and is now doing ballet, they say. Although I don't know how serious she is, because she's not doing ballet at all in this, and that's unusual for someone who's serious in a sport. But Aunt Jeannie and their uncle are like, hey, we got a surprise. You're going to day camp for sports. And they're like, are you kidding? We're 13. Come on. No. But they go, and turns out there's a double Dutch section.
Oh, nice.
And so, but you need 4 people at least. 2 to swing the ropes and 2 to jump. And so they have to find 2 other teammates. They do, and these teammates have no idea what double Dutch is, but they're like, all these other sports are terrible. These are awful. Sure, let's do it. So they get the team together, and then they're also dealing, okay, so one of my favorite bits, they go afterwards to buy some rope at like a little hardware store that's totally family owned. And so Michaela's from New York. She doesn't understand this whole like code switching thing with old people, but everybody else does. So Sally and the 2 other girls that they're in, it's delightful because they're like, oh yeah, you gotta really lay on the accent and be like super kind and just like really go. And so the guy's like, what are you doing? And they're like, we're fixing to go do some double Dutch. And Michaela's like, fixing to? I don't even know what that means. And it's delightful because it's also true. You really just you have to play up the accent.
That is how Southerners talk.
Yeah.
North Carolina Southerners.
Okay, but no. There is a difference between talking to like an elderly person and talking to other people. You really amp it up. It's true, and I laughed so hard.
Did you ever do double Dutch?
I did not. No, I'm not that coordinated.
I did double Dutch in elementary school. It was a big thing in my elementary school. It's fun.
No, I would be on the floor, tangled in the ropes, 100%.
I didn't do that kind, like that fancy kind.
Oh man, it's crazy. They're doing like cartwheels in and out of the ropes and jumping and turning and
I was
spinning.
just happy to get in with 2 ropes at one time.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So I want to talk about this nonfiction book, and this is another aspect of sports which I think is really interesting. This book was fascinating. It's a fairly short book. It's heavily illustrated, but it's about Paralympics, and this Paralympics was started by. The book is called How Ludwig Goodman Created Paralympic Games, A Sporting Chance. And it's written by Laurie Alexander, illustrated by Alan Drummond. Lots of pictures in here. And, up until the 1940s, I mean, just less than 100 years ago, if you had a disability, you were just kind of put aside. There was no attempt to try to engage you in life, train you for work. There was no attempt like that. And if you had a spinal cord injury, basically you were put in the corner of a ward, curtained off, and left to die. And they would put you in a body cast so you couldn't move. And basically what would happen is you would develop bed sores, these infections from not being able to move, or a urinary tract infection because they did nothing to catheterize people or help them, eliminate their waste. And they would die of an infection within a couple of months from a spinal cord injury. Well, Ludwig Goodman he escaped from Nazi Germany. He was Jewish. He was a neurologist in Germany, a very renowned neurologist. But gradually, as the rights of Jewish people were eliminated, and he was only he was called a Jew treater. They wouldn't even call him doctor. And he saw what was coming with the concentration camps, and he was able to get his family out and move to England, where he was just allowed to do research for a while. But after World War II, they hired him to work at a post-war hospital, working with people with spinal cord injuries, soldiers and civilians during the bombings. And when he got there, he was determined, no, that this is not, we're not going to do this. He had done a lot of research on spinal injuries, and first thing he did was take off the body cast. They put him in body casts so they'd be easy to move. And he taught the staff how to turn patients so they wouldn't get bed sores. And he worked on how to help patients eliminate their waste so they wouldn't get infections, and he developed the idea of catheterizing. All these things that are just absolutely rote now for spinal cord treatment, he developed. And what they found is 85% of his patients survived well. And then he thought, well, let's teach them, let's get them out of bed, number one. Let's get them sitting up, number two. Let's put up parallel bars so that they can use their upper body to walk their bodies. Let's get physical therapy. Let's teach them job skills. And he put a workshop in the hospital. I mean, he was just the most innovative person. And then one day when he walked out on the lawn of the hospital, he started putting people in wheelchairs. And he saw a bunch of people in wheelchairs, a group of men, and they had sticks. And they were knocking around a little puck-like thing and playing something like polo in their wheelchairs. And he thought, of course, sports. And, all of his achievements in his life, he was most proud of introducing athletics to people in wheelchairs. And he is the father of the Paralympics. It began with just a competition that they had viewers that came in within their hospital. People, by that point, people had learned how to do archery, play table tennis, play basketball. The polo turned out to be pretty dangerous in a wheelchair. People kept getting hit with the sticks. But several
in the
sports.
wheelchairs.
Yeah, and then they competed against another hospital. And then within just a couple of years, it was hundreds of people coming together to play these sports. And then the idea came of having Olympics for people confined to wheelchairs, as well as later other disabilities, after the Summer Olympics. And it became every 4 years. And the first Paralympics, there were over 400 athletes that came from all over the world to compete. And now it's every 4 years you have the Paralympics. And it's pretty amazing, the skills. And many people get their spinal cord injury as athletes. And it's a huge loss for them to lose their sport. And now there's a way, and thanks to Ludwig Goodman. Fascinating book. I learned so much. I learned a lot about spinal cord injuries.
All right. I have one more graphic novel. This is only available digitally. There is no print version, so we can't get it. I'm sorry. But we have it on Hoopla. It's a trilogy. It's 3 graphic novels. This is volume 1. The series is called Emma and Violet. It is translated from the French, so the author's names I am going to butcher. I'm guessing it is Jeremy Hamon and Lena Sayafoum. I think that was okay. Volume 1 is called One Dream for 3. So the series follows Emma and her younger sister Violet. They both are super into ballet. This art is gorgeous. I love it. I want to read the other 2 volumes. I didn't because I needed to read other stuff for today, but I think I'm going to go back and read volumes 2 and 3 today because they're really quick reads. Like Fuzzy Baseball, they're not very long. They could totally just combine it into one book. But, so Emma and Violet are like super into ballet, like training every day. And their mom is a little bit of a sports mom. And it turns out that she's that way because she wanted to be a violinist for the Paris Opera Ballet, which is what the girls they're attempting to try out for the school linked to the ballet. And their mom had tried 3 times and failed every time, and so she's like, no, if my parents had been more supportive, maybe I would have made it. So I'm gonna push them. I'm gonna make sure they're gonna do it. It's fine. But then Emma fails the audition. Violet passes, and so then it's like, whoa, what do we do? And they're like, oh, you can go to one of the conservatories. There are some that are great. That's how plenty of ballerinas that they take that route. But Emma is kind of like, I spent all this time. Is this really what I want, though? Yeah. So, I mean, the rest of the book is her it's the struggle between, because Dad is just like, honey, maybe that's not what she wants. Maybe this is for the best. And the mom's like, no, they spent so much time. This is gonna happen. Because she's I one dream for 3, because it's all 3, Emma, Violet, and their mom, and it just, so some family struggles, some kind of, what do I do with my life struggles, and sports, and it's really good.
Are we going to get a hard copy of that?
No, we can't. It's only digital.
Oh, it's really beautiful.
It is. It's really pretty. Yeah. So, Hoopla, use one of your borrows.
I'm going to talk real quickly about 2 books. I'm not going to go into any depth about this because the last book I want to talk about, I'll go into just a little bit of depth. Pay Attention, Carter Jones by Gary Schmidt, who is one of my very favorite writers of tween fiction. And this book is about cricket. Cricket, of all things. And this is about a boy, he's, I think he's, seventh grader, and he's got an absent father. His father's in the military, he's never around. His mother is struggling to raise, there were 5 children. One of the children died. And she's still pretty depressed about it, and the husband's never around. So it's Carter and his 3 little sisters. Maybe there were 4 kids. Brother died, I think it's 2 little sisters. And he's trying to help his mother get it together. And it's just, there's never enough money, there's never enough time. It's the first day of school when the book opens. The milk is sour. The dog just threw up on his little sister's favorite sock and she's crying. And the doorbell rings. And Carter goes to the door, and it's this portly man with a bowler hat with an English accent and an umbrella. And Carter says, "Mom, there's somebody here for you." And Mom says, "A salesperson, just shut the door." Carter does. Doorbell rings again. Opens it, there's the man with the bowler hat. This happens several times. Finally, what we find out is that Carter's father's father, who was very wealthy, has died. And he left Carter 2 things. His Bentley, his purple Bentley, which is a very, very expensive car, and they call it the eggplant. And he left him his butler. He has paid the butler salary to come and take care of this family, because Carter's grandfather knows that his son is not a good father. And what the butler insists on doing is teaching them cricket, and they start a cricket team. And it's great. And it's like what Kelly was saying, the things that Carter is learning are framed in the lessons that he learns about cricket.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful book. It's just a great book. The other book I'm going to talk real briefly about is Bump by Matt Wallace. And this book is about professional wrestling, luchadors. Am I saying it right? It is a form of wrestling, professional wrestling, that's very popular in Mexico. It focuses less on the violence and more on this storyline, these rivalries between these competitors. But MJ is a girl who wants to be. It's another kind of like a parent has died, her father has died, and her mother, who just doesn't get this thing that MJ and her dad shared, which was this passion about wrestling and their Mexican heritage, and MJ's dream is to become a luchadora. And lo and behold, wouldn't it be a coincidence that when their new neighbor happens to run a school training luchadors and luchadoras, and he agrees to let MJ come to wrestling school. So this is about her wrestling. So the last book I'm going to talk about, do you have another one?
I do have one more.
Okay, you want to do it next?
Sure. This one I will not talk about too long, because it's been quite some time since I read this, but I quite enjoyed it.
I love that cover.
Isn't it amazing? Okay, so this is Pea Sprout Chen. This is book 1, Future Legend of Skate and Sword by Henry Lien. And well, I don't know why they went with Pea Sprout Chen on the front cover, because in the story they follow more Asian naming conventions, and she is Chen Pea Sprout. The family name comes first. But that's here or there. So Pea Sprout and her younger brother Cricket they're being sent to the land of Pearl. Also, I think it's like a city-state, so like it's the country, but also it's just like a giant city of Pearl. As exchange students, they have been sent by the Empress Dowager of Shin as these ambassadors. And they are the first 2 students to attend the Pearl Famous Academy of Skate and Sword. They are trying to become masters in the art of Wu Lian, which is martial arts figure skating.
Oh.
Yes.
I've never heard of that. Is
well, I don't know if it's real. But that's what it is in this book. It's pretty awesome.
That does sound awesome.
Yeah, so that's hence this sweet cover. She's doing some martial arts figure skating.
Wow. Why not?
I know, right? If you could
just
cut someone with a skate. Yeah, so Pearl is the name of the city and the country, I think, and also the name of the material that, like, basically all of the country is made out of. So this city is just, like, blindingly white. That's why, I don't know if you probably can't see, but she's wearing sunglasses on the top of her head, because you skate on this stuff and then it like self-heals and it comes back, but it is white.
That is cool.
So all the buildings are made out of it, like all the streets, everything. And they're really super excited. Pea Sprout is fantastic at skating. She's real good. So she's like real excited about going to this famous academy. And then some of the buildings start getting vandalized. And of course, she and her brother, they're the two ambassadors from this other country, then they immediately get blamed. So it's Pea Sprout trying to do well in school and trying to make friends, even though she's also getting blamed for doing these terrible things to these buildings. And also, that if I remember correctly, there's also a little bit of like mystery as to what actually is the pearl, the material, and because it's really suspicious. Like they hide all the buildings while they're doing maintenance and stuff. So there's definitely some mystery there that I'm assuming is going to get solved maybe in book 2. I don't know, maybe more. But it, yeah, martial arts figure skating.
Fantasy. Sports fantasy.
Yes.
Wow. All right, last book I'm going to talk about is called The Comeback, and it's written by E.L. Shen.
Works out, because that's also figure skating.
Yes. They work well together. In this book, the main character, her name is Maxine, and she she's an elite athletic competitor. That's right.
Yeah.
Competitor. Yeah. She is a 7th grader, and she has been training for years as a figure skater, and it's her life. This book really, and so does Nikki on the line, shows what it's like when you reach this level of athletics, even in middle school. It is your life. It is all you do. And basically, Maxine, she's losing her best friend because she doesn't have time to hang out anymore, and her best friend's sick of it. But, you know, she has this very supportive family. Both of her grandparents immigrated from China, so she's ethnically Chinese. And she has a very supportive family. Both of her parents are pharmacists, and they work extra hours. They work really hard to finance this. It's very expensive. But Maxine loves it. She's not being pressured. She's not being pushed. This is her choice. Her parents are always saying, whenever you're ready to quit, you can quit. But she loves it, and she's very, very good at it. She is preparing for regional competition, which will then take her to like maybe it's a district competition, then she's going to go to a regional, which would then take her to nationals, which is what leads into the Olympics. So she's on that track, and she's pretty, working really hard. She goes to the rink before school in the morning. She goes to the rink after school in the afternoon. In the evening, she takes ballet. She is working all the time, and she's a good student too. And everywhere she goes, she has her school book, so she has 15 minutes free sitting on a bench. She is doing homework. So it's an intense life, but she likes it. And then, there's a new girl that shows up on the rink, Holly, who is, she first encounters her in a ballet class. Holly is strikingly tall and willowy and graceful, and she's there with a Russian coach, a renowned Russian coach, and she's working on moves, spins, turns, jumps that Maxine can't even approach yet. And when Maxine has a bad competition, she's in the locker room, and Holly, the new girl, is trying to be nice, and Maxine's just really ugly to her, and her parents see it, and they take her home and they ream her. But she learns through her sport how to be a better person. But the thing I really wanted to kind of talk about that's very timely in this book is there is a boy in her school, a popular boy, that in fact her former best friend has got a crush on and is hanging out with, and he's just a racist. And he starts off with just doing this kind of thing to her, ha ha ha, and her Maxine's just like somebody slapped her in the face, and her friend is like, what are you so upset about? He's just joking, and it escalates. The comments get worse and worse, and it's eating Maxine because she doesn't know what to do about it, and she doesn't want to tell anybody. She doesn't want to be a tattletale. and it's starting to affect her skating because it's just eating at her. And I mentioned this, it is an important part of the book, and race comes into many of these books, but there is so much going on in our country right now with racially motivated attacks, physical attacks against Asian people. I saw a photograph in the news this morning of an elderly Asian woman with both of her eyes were black, that somebody had beat her up on the street. And of course this week, when we were filming this, there was a shooting in Atlanta of every person that was killed was an Asian person. So this was something that wasn't on my radar, that there is this and I think it's been fed by the coronavirus and talk of, calling it, blaming China for this virus that has really fed very ugly racism against people of Asian ethnicity, Asian descent, immigrants. And this book, really talks about that. And you look at the impact of a young girl of facing this type of racism. So I feel like the book, even though it wasn't written, this was probably written before coronavirus.
Yeah.
It just came out this year, but there's usually at least a year lag between the finish of a book and its publication. It's very new on our shelf, but it was probably written before all this happened. But it really puts that racism on the radar. And I hope you'll read this book. It's really, really good. Character development's really good. And the description of the sports, I loved hearing the descriptions of the work that's involved in becoming a great skater.
And look at that cover.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful cover. So, and there's lots of really nice art in the book. So, The Comeback by E.L. Shin. It's on our new bookshelf.
We talked a long time, sorry.
Yes.
We like books.
These books were all so good. Usually, there's a couple that are sort of mediocre, but these were all really grand books.
So what are we doing next time, Mary Lou?
We're doing funny books.
Yes.
Funny books, because it's going to be right around April Fool's.
Yeah. Ha ha ha. So we'll see you then.
Stay safe. Come see us. The library's open.
Bye.
Sunday through Thursday, 1 to 7.
Yes.